Okay, hi everybody, nice to have you back. So we're going to be talking about trying to figure out the end of the Moshe origin story, this very strange moment where Moshe and Tsiporah arrive at the inn and God wants to kill him. Seems like just the strangest thing in the world. How do we understand it? So I want to, and again, this brings me to this little source sheet over here. If you don't have one of these, you should try to take one. This literary structure, I think, is possibly the Torah's way of explaining a lot of things to us, including the answer to this question. Let me tell you how I stumbled upon this. I stumbled upon this because it occurred to me when I was learning with somebody that if you look at this language, Vayifkesheyu Hashem vayivakesh hamito, Pasuk Chaf Daled, that when God at the hotel meets up with Moshe and seeks to kill him, that language is reminiscent of something that took place a couple prakim earlier than this. Think about it. How many people or how many beings want to kill Moshe? Specifically, seek to kill Moshe. Who else seeks to kill Moshe besides God? Right? In Moshe's life, there's one other being who actually seeks to kill Moshe. And it is Paro. Paro seeks to kill Moshe. Now, if you think about it, it's not just like a coincidence that there happens to be two beings who seek to kill Moshe. First of all, the language is the same. Look at when God seeks to kill Moshe, Vayifkesheyu Hashem vayivakesh hamito. Now compare that to the moment when Paro seeks to kill Moshe back in Perek Beit. Turn back to Perek Beit, right? If you have it, you can see it on the sheet in the red up above in Shemot Perek Beit. Right? Take a look at Pasuk Tet Vav. Vayishma Paro v'tadavar hazeh. Paro hears this thing. Vayivakesh laharog et Moshe. Right? See how similar that language is? Vayivakesh laharog et Moshe. God, vayivakesh hamito. Right? Same verb. Seeks to kill him. Seeks to kill him. And now if I ask you, okay, do you see any commonality at all between Paro and God? Paro and God are very different. But what's actually common between Paro and God? The kings. Two kings want to kill Moshe with exactly the same language. Could it be that the secret to why God wanted to kill Moshe lies in why Paro wanted to kill him? Could these things be connected? If somehow we could understand why one king wanted to do away with him, would that provide us a clue as to why the other king wanted to do away with him? Now, that just seemed like a fanciful thought for a while. And indeed, it is a fanciful thought. Who says, really, these two incidents are connected? It could just be coincidental. But what I want to show you now is something which I discovered since then, which is that it's not coincidental. There's an elaborate literary structure here. And the literary structure is a chiasm, or an atbash pattern, right? And you can see it, and what's cool about this is it's a very elegant and a very elaborate literary pattern. I'll explain to you exactly how it goes, but it's about 25 different pieces, right? And an atbash pattern basically is a mirror. So the first element, the aleph, is going to mirror the tuf, the last element. The beit, the second to first, is going to mirror the shin, the second to last, which is where you get the idea at, bash, aleph, tuf, beit, shin, gimel, and reish. Right? It's going to continue this way. So if it's got like 25 elements, they're all going to mirror each other. It just so happens that the origin story of Moshe is arranged in an atbash format, right? That there is this mirror in Moshe's entire origin story. Now, it just so happens that if you plot out the mirror and you do the algebra, you'll find that God killing Moshe is like the 17th from the beginning and the 8th from the end element in the series. But Paro killing Moshe is also the 17th from the beginning and the 8th from the end on the other side of the mirror. They're exactly where you would expect them to be. Right? The position of these things are perfectly positioned such that they actually mirror each other. There's something going on here, and I think the Atbash pattern will teach it to us. Let me show you the pattern, and we'll see. But I also want to take a quick look for just a moment at why it was that Paro wanted to kill Moshe. Why did Paro want to kill Moshe? Let me take a quick poll of the audience, right? Why do you think Paro wanted to kill Moshe? What do you say? Anybody? What did Moshe do wrong? He killed the Egyptian, right? All in favor of he killed the Egyptian, raise your hand, right? It's a bad thing to do. Paro's mad at that, right? Everybody who thinks, no, it wasn't that, it was something else, raise their hand. Twice. What? He was born a boy? But in the text, right? Vayishma Paro et davar hazeh. What's the davar hazeh? Right? Seemingly, it's the killing of the Egyptian. That's what we think. But if you actually look at the text carefully, it's not so clear. Let's look at the text carefully and see. What happens? The first thing that happens is that Moshe kills the Egyptian, right? But that's not when Paro decides he wants to kill him. Then something else happens. The something else is there's another fight. Yeah? Well, it could be, but it happens before that. So it's got to be before that. Watch, you'll see. So right after the first fight, there's a second fight. In the second fight, there are these two Jews who are fighting one another. Let's pick up and see. What happens? There's two Jews. Vayomer l'Rasha lama takei areacha. And Moshe gets involved in Pasuk Yud Gimel and says to the aggressor, why is it that you're hurting your neighbor? The aggressor's response is this. Mi samcha le'ish sar v'shofet aleinu. Who made you the sheriff around here? Who put a star on you and gave you the right to go prosecuting cases? Who are you? What standing do you have? Right? Halahargeni ata omer kasher haragta et mitzri. Are you going to kill me the way you killed the Mitzri? Right? Now, if you think about this argument, this guy's argument, really, what is his argument? His argument, in a way, is I understand why you killed the Mitzri. You killed the Mitzri because he was an aggressor who was hurting your brother. So you were siding with your brother against a foreigner. I get that. I understand in legal language, you would say, I understand your standing, right? I understand why it is that this matters to you when somebody's beating up your brother and you interfered. But who are you now? There's two Jews that are fighting. You can't say that you're siding with one Jew against the other because he's a Jew. Both of us are Jews, right? Elamai, you'll say that the reason why you're involved is because there's an aggressor beating up somebody else, and you're the great hero riding on the sunset with your cowboy hat. But who made you the sheriff around here? You don't have any standing. The court system has standing. Paro has standing. Who are you? You're a nobody. You can't just ride in from the sunset and rescue this guy. There's a legal system here. You aren't a deputy of the illegal system. That's what it means. Mi sam chaliish sar v'shofet aleinu. Who made you the judge and the jury around here? Now, look what happens immediately after this. What happens? Vayomer Moshe achein noda hadavar. Okay, so Moshe's worried because he says, oh, people know that I killed the Egyptian, right? Okay, now watch the 3-card Monty going on. You ever play a 3-card Monty on the streets of Manhattan, right? There's a little shell game going on here. Achein noda hadavar. So you think davar means what? The first thing, right? Moshe says, see, people know I killed the Egyptian. Now watch the davar in the next verse. Vayishma Paro et hadavar hazeh. And Paro heard this thing. Vayivakesh laharog et Moshe. And he sought to kill Moshe. Now the question is, what was this thing? Vayishma Paro et hadavar hazeh. What's hadavar hazeh? In the simple meaning of the text, what's hadavar hazeh? It's the last thing that happened. What's the last thing that happened? The sarva shofet thing. That's just the simple meaning of the text. Davar means two things in the two sentences. First, it means with Moshe, oh, it's known that I killed the Egyptian, but then, Vayishma Paro et hadavar hazeh, what? It's the last thing that happened. What's the last thing that happened? This argument between the two Jews. So you say, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's impossible. Why would Paro care about the argument between the two Jews? He only cares about the Egyptian. Must be we're talking about the Egyptian, but that's not what the text says. The text sort of says, no, it was the argument between the two Jews. But if you think about it, there is a certain logic to why Paro would want to kill Moshe because of the argument between the two Jews. If you're Paro, what's your interest? The answer is, you're the judge and the jury around here. Who is Moshe usurping? You. Nobody made him a sheriff. You can't have a court system. I can't have a king with people just riding around off in the sunset doing their own justice. It may very well be that what motivated Paro to kill Moshe wasn't actually the thing that Moshe was afraid of, which was that you're going around killing Mitzrayim, but it was the fact that you're going around at all with this big white cowboy hat on. Who are you? This isn't the Wild West around here. And it's true that I don't like Jews that much, but I am the king, and as king, I do have an interest in having an actual court system. I can't have you doing your own thing, right? In other words, the argument Misam Chalish Sar V'Shofet Aleinu holds water in Paro's eyes, and once Paro hears about it, he seeks to kill Moshe. That could well be the simple pshat of what's going on here. Keep that in mind as you watch the Atbash pattern develop. Let's look at the pattern. I've been told that I'm supposed to try to wrap things up quickly so that we can make up some time. So I'm going to talk as fast as I possibly can. Okay? All right. So here you are. You're looking at these sheets over here. And if you're looking at these sheets, it looks like a nice simple chiasm we've got here. Pretty easy. There's just 4 sections, and they're color-coded. What could be hard? You've got a red section, you've got a yellow section, and you've got a green section, you've got a blue section. That's all the text before the burning bush. Then you got 2 words, the burning bush, which just stands for the whole burning bush stuff. And then you have the epilogue to the burning bush afterwards, and you'll notice it's a mirror. This time you have blue first, followed by green, followed by yellow, followed by red. So you have a mirror image of these colors, and you can see the Atbash pattern. The reason why this Atbash pattern is much more detailed and granular is that that's only half of it. And what I've left you to do is to discover with me the second half of it. The second half of it is that it's not just the case that in general terms, the red mirrors the red, the yellow mirrors the yellow, the green mirrors the green, and the blue mirrors the blue. In very particular terms, that's true. So for example, you're going to see that there are 6 elements in the red. Each of those 6 elements in the red are mirrored in order in bottom red. Right? There's 4 elements in the green. Each of the elements in the green are mirrored in the bottom green, right? In order, right? Let's go through this, and I want to show you how this kind of works and a little bit about the explanatory power of this. And let me just say a word about this, right? If somebody asked you and said, I'm looking for a good mefarish to read. I'm looking for a good commentary to read on the Torah. Can you recommend a good commentary? Like some early commentary that I never heard of. So you could say, well, I don't know if you've read the Tsiporah earlier. Give me a really earlier commentary. What if somebody said, the most profound early commentary on the Torah that I can give you is actually the Torah itself? Right? The Torah is its own commentary. So you say, that's crazy. How could a book comment on itself? The answer is a book can comment on itself. One of the ways it can do it is through a structure like this. If you find a structure like this, you're going to find it's composed of pairs, right? The red part pairs with the red part. The green part pairs with the green part. The blue part pairs with the blue part. Whenever you have pairs, it could well be the Torah is saying, hey, if you don't know what's going on in element 17 at the top of this structure, you know where you're going to find the explanation for it? In element 17 at the bottom of the structure. Its pair is going to explain it to you. right? It's a way of the Torah commenting upon itself. Let me show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. Let's start with the inner parts of the chiasm. Let's start with the stuff that's right before the burning bush and right after the burning bush, which is going to be our blue section. I'm going to read the beginning of the blue section, the top blue section, and I want you to tell me what is that mirror at the top of the bottom blue section, right? Or the first part of the top blue section, what does it mirror in the first part of the bottom blue section? So the top section begins with these words: Moshe haya roe et son Yitro hotno, and Moshe, right? He was shepherding the sheep of Yitro, the Kohen of Midian, and he leads those sheep through the desert until he gets to the Har Elokim Chorev, until he gets to the mountain of God at Chorev. Now, look at the beginning of the blue section after the burning bush, and tell me, what's the mirror image of those words? Think about what you see at the top of the blue. Here is Moshe. Where is Moshe? Where does Moshe start? He starts with Yitro. But then he moves. Where does he move to? He moves, right? He goes on this journey to Har Elokim Chorev, to the mountain of God at Chorev. Then he's at the burning bush. Then you have the beginning of the blue section. Let's look at the beginning of the bottom blue section. He's at the burning bush. He's at the mountain of God. Vayelech Moshe, and he goes Vayeshev al Yeser Chosno, and he goes back to Yitro. So it's a very simple mirror image, right? At the top blue, Moshe starts with Yitro, travels to the mountain of God. At the bottom blue, Moshe starts at the mountain of God and the mirror image and travels to Yitro, right? Perfect mirror. Now let's look at the second element in the blue. The second element in the blue. We'll start with bottom blue. Right after Vayelech Moshe Vayoshev al Yisr Chosno in bottom blue, you have these words: Vayomer lo El Chana va'ashuva lachai asher b'Mitzrayim va'ereh ha'odam chayim. Let me go now, and please, let me go walk now, please. I want to return to my brothers in Egypt and see if they're really still alive. Look at those words, Vayomer lo El Chana ve'ereh. I'm going to go and see. Hey, that's interesting. I want to go and see. In this case, I want to go and see what's with my brothers that are still in Egypt. How are they still living? Can you find the mirror image of that in top blue? Right? The second element in top of blue. After Moshe haya roe et son Yitro, after he goes and he leaves, right, and he leaves Yitro for Har Elokim, can you find something that reminds you of Vayomer lo El Chana ve'ereh? Vayomer Asura Navereh. You see how close that is? Not only is it close, it's actually a mirror. Let me show you how it's a mirror. Vayomer lo Elcha Navereh. Let's just plot this out visually. If I would say Elcha Navereh, what does the word Elech mean? I'm going to go. So here I am. I'm at the top of your bima. What would it look like for me to go? What would I have to do? Elchana. Right? I would go like this. Right? I'd start walking. A straight line is what I would do. So you'd see me moving, and I'm moving in a forward direction. That's what happens when you walk, right? Now let's go to the mirror image of this in top blue. I don't say Elcha Navereh. I say Asura Navereh. What is Asura Na? Am I going to walk? What does Asura mean? I'm going to turn. I'm going to go off the path. I'm going to turn. So Asura Na is I stay here. So that's the mirror image of going. And instead of my direction being straight, Asura Na is I'm going to turn and see. You see how that's the mirror image? So we have two mirror images, right? Okay. Now, let's go to top blue. What is it that Moshe turns to see? What is he turning to see? Well, in top blue, he's turning to see the burning bush. The language of the text is, Asur navereh et hamareh hagadol hazeh madua lo yivar hasneh. Let me turn and see this remarkable thing. How come that bush isn't burning? What you're about to see in this third element of the chiasm is the mirror image of that. The mirror image of the burning bush itself. What's the burning bush's mirror? I want to tell you why this is such a big deal. The burning bush is one of the most mysterious symbols in the book of Exodus. What does it mean? Why is there a burning bush? As a matter of fact, if you think about it, it's a pretty lousy miracle. Go back to my discussion with Chaim and Sarah before. I had Sarah come over here, right? It's like if you saw a dumpster fire, right, on the Garden State Parkway on the way to Brooklyn, would you stop? Right? And there's like zillions of cars going past. Imagine the garbage actually wasn't burning. Would you notice? You wouldn't notice. You'd zip right by. How long do you have to look at that dumpster before you realize, Taka, I think the garbage inside the dumpster, it's actually not burning. You wouldn't say that. You know what I mean? You really got to sit there and watch. It's not a good miracle. You want to catch Moshe's attention? 3 elephants flying over a rock. That'll catch his attention. Not a burning bush dumpster fire. It's too hard. It's too complicated. If I'm one of the ministering angels and say, God, find another miracle. Right? So what's God doing? It must be that, no, it can only be that miracle. I'm stuck with this miracle. Why? Because the message of the miracle is more important than how glitzy it is. Okay, the message is so important, I've got to stick with this. But what's the message? What is the message? What?
There's another source for the fire.
That's what I said in one of my videos.
Yeah.
That's true. But there is another possible explanation, and I think the chiasm is going to suggest the alternative explanation to my explanation in one of those videos. Got to admit, the Torah seems to say I'm wrong in this case, right? Possibly. Right? But what's the alternative explanation? There's either 2 possibilities. One is the fire isn't a real fire, which is what I argued in that video, which is the fire's fake, or the source for the fire must be coming from somewhere other than the bush, otherwise it would burn. The other possibility is it's not, but if the fire is a real fire, then what's the other possibility? The bush isn't a real bush. It's either the fire is not a real fire or the bush isn't a real bush. It's one or the other, right? What does it mean the bush isn't a real bush? Right? It means this bush is indestructible. That's what it means. It's an indestructible bush. Now think about the symbolism of that. Let's say you take that. Why would this be the symbol at this particular moment that Moshe needed to see? Why is God using this symbol to describe why action needs to be taken? What's the bush? What's the fire? The bush is us. We're on fire. Right? What's the fire? Suffering. Slavery. You see it before. Batal shavatam Elohim, Elohim min avodah. Even that phraseology. And the screams rose to God. If you overlay the burning bush on that picture of the screams, what are the screams in the language of the burning bush? It's the fire. The fire is going up to God. God's seeing the smoke, right? And God is about to get involved in a big way, not in a little way. Signs and miracles, wonders, the complete abandonment of the laws of nature, right? Let me ask you something. Imagine there was a dispute in heaven. Right? Imagine you are one of the ministering angels, and it's like, not so fast. I see God, you want to get involved. What argument could you make against God getting involved to save his people from this terrible pain and suffering?
They deserve it.
You could say they deserve it. God says, but look, they're suffering, it's terrible, they're my kids, I gotta save them. What will you then say? Why? I feel bad. Vayara Elokim, right? I see their pain, I see their suffering, I feel terrible. Got to do something. What else would you say? Free will, shmee will. They had 400 years of free will. Got to do something. It's terrible. Look what's happening to them. If I don't do anything, it'll be awful.
This is what was promised. This is what was promised to Abraham. This is what was going to happen to him.
Okay, so it's done now, right? You have an actually much stronger argument to do nothing. What's the best argument to make to do nothing?
It hasn't been 400 years.
All right, so we can bend it a little bit. 210 is a long time, right? The strongest argument you can make, I think, is look at the precedent this sets. What are you doing? You're God. You're the master of the universe. You've got something called teva in this world. You have something called the laws of physics, right? The world works. What are you going to do? You're going to swoop down with your signs and miracles, and you're splitting of the sea and 10 plagues and the whole thing. All of a sudden, teva goes to pot. Who are you? You're the king around here. You're in charge of all these rules. You're the one who's got to be somebody's got to be responsible for the laws of physics around here. Somebody's got to be responsible for the laws of chemistry. There's no predictability in the world. You think it's good for human beings if gravity gets suspended? You like walking out and deal and going into your pool with no gravity? It doesn't work, okay? You need laws of nature. It's good for everybody. What are you going to do? First you'll start with this, and then Greece. They're going to get beat up by the Persians. You're going to go help them out because it's so unjust. Every time somebody goes and oppresses somebody else, you're going to go with your bleeding heart and you're going to go take care of the situation. There wouldn't be any world left. There'd be miracles here and miracles there and miracles everywhere. What would you say if you were God? What could you possibly say to that? Look at what God does say. Look at the text. Go back to the language right before the burning bush, and you'll essentially see God preempting this exact argument. Vayihi bayamim arabim ahem. We read these words before. Vayamat malach Mitzrayim. The king of Egypt died. Vayan chubnei Yisrael min avodah vayizaku. And there's screams. The fire went up to God from the avodah. Vayishma Elokim et nakatam. And God heard their screams. You would think hearing their screams would be enough to act. That's all I need. Empathy. I feel bad. I'm going to act. But it's not. Look at the next thing that it says. Vayiskor Elokim et brito. At Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. God remembered his brit, his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The covenant matters. What is the covenant that he remembers? What is this covenant? Where was this brit that he would give them the land? It goes all the way back to which brit? The brit ben Havatarim with Avram. What happened in the brit ben Havatarim? In the brit ben Havatarim, God said, essentially what to Avram? God said, Ger yezaracha be'eretz lo lahem, va'avadim v'inu otam arba shana. Your children are going to be slaves in a land not their own. They're going to be oppressed, and they're going to suffer there for 400 years. And after that, I'm going to take them out. I'm going to take them out. And by the way, we ourselves, in the Pesach Seder, you know what we say about the Brit Ben Havatarim? We say, V'hi sha'amda. That Brit has always stood for us. Lavotenu v'lanu. It stood for them and it stood for us. Shalo echad bilvad alamad aleinu l'kalotenu. Because it wasn't just one nation at one point in time that wanted to destroy us. Every nation, they all try to destroy us. And that Brit is the only thing that makes a difference. What did God promise in that Brit? In the words of the burning bush. Think about what a burning bush is. You see a bush, it's on fire. What's going to happen to the bush? It's going to be destroyed. But this bush doesn't get destroyed. It's the bush that doesn't burn. It's on fire, but it doesn't get destroyed. It's facing a civilization-ending event, the end of the line for the bush, but the bush isn't ending. If you take a nation and you subject it to 400 years of suffering, to pain and suffering, right? And having their babies thrown into the Nile, what happens to the nation? It's ended. It's a civilization-ending event. In the normal things of life, it should be the end. But somehow it's not. Because there's a Brit. Because God says, I won't let you end. You are my people, and I won't let you be destroyed. You have the gift of immortality. Now let me ask you something. If I were to pull out a little white pill, of which I only had one, and I said, right here is a little white pill. It's the gift of immortality. All you have to do is take it once, and you'll live forever. And the first person in this room that raises their hand and says, I would like that pill, I'll walk right down here right now, and I'll give you the pill for nothing. Free. You'll be the one person to have the gift of immortality. Would anyone like the pill? Please raise your hand if you would like the pill.
I want that pill.
You want that pill? Is he the only one? Does anybody else want the pill? One pill. You want the pill. Does anybody else want the pill? funny, not that many people want the pill. You know why you don't want the pill? Because the only thing the pill guarantees is that you'll never die. That's it. It doesn't guarantee that you will never get cancer. It doesn't guarantee you'll never get Alzheimer's. It doesn't guarantee that you'll never get frail. It doesn't guarantee that you'll watch all your friends die. It doesn't guarantee any of that. The only thing it guarantees is that no matter what comes your way, you will be indestructible. You won't actually die. How many of us would want that? It's a double-edged sword, immortality. But that's what God gave us. As a nation, we won't be destroyed. Jewish history shows it's true. We won't be destroyed. We will face civilization-ending events, but they won't end us. Now, here's the thing. God understands that it's a double-edged sword. That's the burning bush. Here's this bush that's indestructible, but it's on fire. It's in pain. It's struggling. And for 400 years. You know, the nice thing about civilization-ending events is they happen and they're over. You know what I mean? The nice thing about death is, gamarnu. It happens, goodbye. How much suffering can it be already? A nation goes, and they go through a civilization-ending event. In 3 years, it's over, and it's merciful, and it's done. But if you're pledged immortality, and you face a civilization-ending event, and you burn, and you burn, and you burn, and for 400 years, you're still burning, God looks at that, and you know what God's response to the angel who says, I can't get involved is? You say I can't come out with signs and wonders and save them? I'm already involved. The fact that I'm not letting them be destroyed, the fact that they're still burning, the fact that they're still in pain after 400 years is because of me. It's because I say that that nation needs to be my legacy and can't be destroyed. And now you say that I can't come out and save them with signs and wonders and break the rules. I've already broken the rules. The fact that there's a nation that won't be destroyed is breaking the rules. That's Vayizkor Elokim et Brito. God remembers the Brit that said there's an indestructible nation. And therefore, that Brit says, I've already broken the rules. Now I have to save you. I don't care what it takes. A father's going to save his kid. Look at the other side of the chiasm. We talked about, right, so far there are 3 elements in blue. The third element is the burning bush. Look at the mirror of the burning bush. In the burning bush, Moshe says, I'm going to see a tamareh hagadol hazeh. I'm going to see this great sign. Madua lo yivar hasneh. How come that bush won't burn? Listen to that word carefully. Madua lo yivar haseh. It doesn't make any sense. How come that bush won't burn? What's the meaning? That's the mashal. What's the nimshal? The nimshal, the meaning is on the other side of the chiasm. Look at the mirror in the blue on the other side of the chiasm. Hold on for 1 second. Right? What does Moshe say he wants to see on the other side? He says what he wants to see is, I want to see Achai. I want to see my brothers. Ha'odam chayim? Are they really still alive? Look at what they've been through. It's impossible that they're still alive. They've been through so much suffering. Ha'odam chayim? Could they really be alive? That is the mirror of the burning bush. A bush that burns and will not be destroyed is a remarkable thing. Could people endure that kind of suffering and still be alive? That's what Moshe is seeing now, the meaning of it. By the way, to show you the mirror, when Moshe looks at the burning bush, let me find it again over here. When Moshe looks at the burning bush, the language is Madua lo yivar hasneh. How do you spell Madua? Mem, Dalid, Vav, Ayin. How come that bush isn't burning? Look at the mirror with me. Back in blue. Va'era ha'odam chayim. How do you spell ha'odam? Ayin, Vav, Dalid, Mem. Exactly backwards. It's the mirror image of Madua. And by the way, it's not just the linguistic mirror image of Madua. It's conceptually the mirror image of Madua. What is Madua? Madua is when I challenge something. I say, Madua, how come it's that way? And if I have in my way, I uproot what there is. How come it's that way? What's ha'odam? Ha'odam chayim? Could they really still be alive? It's the acceptance of the crazy truth that somehow or another they're really still alive, even though I can't explain it. I'm not trying to undermine it. I have to see them. Could they really still be alive? It's undermining versus acceptance. Madulo yuvarsna hodam chayim. If you have some time afterwards, we can chat about one other time in Tanakh that you find Madua paired with Odam, and it turns out it's the burning bush one more time. It's in Megillat Esther. That's my hint. See if you can find it. Okay, but let's continue. So we're back in the blue, right? And the next thing that happens, let's look for element 4 in top blue and see if we can find element 4 in bottom blue. Element 4 in top blue is, so he looks at the burning bush, and then there's an angel coming out, and the angel says, after he says, Hineni vayomer al tikrav halom, shal na'lechem al raglecha. Don't come too close, take off your shoes. You can't come too close, it's too dangerous, okay? Al tikrav. What is the language, what would the mirror image of al tikrav be? Let the word tikrav. Tikrav is to come close. Let's define coming close. You're there, I'm here. To come close is from you to go from there to here, right? What's the opposite of that? To go, late. To go from here to there, right? That would be the opposite. Al tikrav alom. Do not come close. The opposite of do not would be, in fact, go. So the opposite of al tikrav would be late, right? The opposite of al tikrav, because it's too dangerous, would be late because it is safe. Oh, so on the mirror image, what is it that Yitro says to Moshe? Lech l'shalom. Go in peace. It's safe. By the way, the linguistic mirror, the angel saying it's too dangerous, says, Al tikrav halom shal. Al tikrav halom, do not come close. Shal, take off your shoes. Lom shal. Lom shal. Mirror image of lom shal is shalom. Shalom. Lech le shalom. On the other side, the mirror image of lom shal is shalom. Right? It's crazy, but this is the chiasm, right? So if we continue, you find this branching out too. Let's go beyond the blue now to the green. Let's go to top green. And it happened in those days that the king of Egypt died, right? Look at bottom green. Is anything matches up with the king of Egypt dies? Go back to Mitzrayim. Why? All the people who sought to kill you are dead. Who sought to kill you? Paro, right? Paro's dead. Paro's dead. Okay, so much for green. Let's go to yellow, right? Yellow. Let's go to bottom yellow. Vayikach Moshe et ishto vet banav. And Moshe took his wife and his children. Moshe happened to take his wife and his children and went somewhere. But in top yellow, look at what Moshe's doing. On top yellow, Moshe takes Tsiporah as a wife and has a child. And bottom yellow, he takes his wife and child. Right? You see? All right, let's keep on going. We don't have much time. I'm getting kicked out of here. All right, so look at top red. And see how top red mirrors bottom red? And you're going to see as part of this, the story of Moshe and Tsiporah at the end. Right? Very quickly. Vayifen ko va-ko in top red. Moshe looks this way and that way. Can you find ko in bottom red? V'amarta al paro ko amar Hashem. Why those match up? Ask me afterwards, we can talk about it. Let's go to the second element in bottom red. After Vayifen ko va-ko, we get the verbal death threat. Right? In Pasuk Yud Daled. Mi samcha leish sar v'shofet aleinu. Remember, these are the two Hebrews that are arguing with this. Mi samcha leish sar v'shofet, the aggressor says to Moshe, who'd made you the judge and sheriff around here? Halargeni ata omer? Are you going to threaten me with death, mister? Kasher haragta et mitzri, just the same way you killed the Egyptian. Are you threatening me? Verbal death threat in top red. Can you find verbal death threat in bottom red? That's right. Va'omar elecha, God commands Moshe to issue a verbal death threat against whom? Against Paro. Va'omar elecha, I will say to you, Hine anochi hareget bincha b'charecha. If you don't let my child go, I will kill all your firstborn children. The language is the same. Halahargeni ata omer, the aggressor said. Are you saying you will kill me? God says, Va'omare lecha, and say to him, Hine anochi horeg, I will kill your firstborn child. Fascinating. There seems to be a link between the verbal death threat, right, that the aggressor is accusing Moshe of waging against him, and God's command to Moshe to issue a verbal death threat to Paro if he will not let the Jews go. Now watch where this is going. The very next event is going to be God seeking to kill Moshe on one end of the chiasm, and Paro seeking to kill Moshe on the other. The two actually match up. It's not just that these are two events in the middle of nowhere. They're part of a larger structure. Look at it. You'll see, right? The very next words in top, right? In top red. Vayivakesh larog et Moshe. Paro seeks to kill Moshe. That now matches up with Vayivkasheo Hashem vayivakesh hamito. God meets up with him and seeks to kill him. Now we have to figure out why. The answer is, if you want to know why God wanted to kill Moshe, look at why Paro wanted to kill him. Why did Paro want to kill him? The answer is because of the verbal death threat, that he had no right to what's the word for it? That he had no right to utter, right? He had no right to say. He had no right to issue that verbal death threat because he had no standing. He had no standing. That would seem to suggest that the reason why God wants to kill Moshe is also because he has no standing to issue the verbal death threat. But now you look at me, you say, Fohrman, that's a bridge too far. That is totally crazy. I know I'm fasting, but just because I'm fasting, you can't pull that one over me. That's crazy. Because God told him to issue the verbal death threat, okay? God came and said, tell Paro, I'm going to kill his firstborn kid. So you can't say that God was mad at him for doing it, okay? You can't say God, A, said to Moshe, go tell Paro, I'm going to kill your firstborn, do that on my behalf. And the next thing that happens, God turns around and says, I'm killing you because you issued an invalid death threat. Why'd you tell me to issue it if it was invalid, right? That's the problem. Let's figure out the answer to that problem. The answer to that problem is the secret of the story of Moshe and Tsiporah at the end. I began by saying this is a story about Avinu Malkeinu, our father, our king. The interesting thing about God is that he's both. He's both father and king. He's king because he's the creator of the whole world, and it's his world. And so he's the judge and the jury, and he has ultimate power and ultimate authority in this system. But he made a brit with us. He's family. He's also our father. And like any father, he doesn't want to let his kid get destroyed. Now the question is, in Mitzrayim, in Yetziat Mitzrayim, now that Yetziat Mitzrayim is about to happen, is God acting like father, or is God acting like king? Is God acting, that which God is now going to act, will he act as king or will he act as father? Look at the verbal death threat that Moshe was intended to wage. What did God tell him to say? Let's read the text. Ko amar Hashem, thus says God, B'ni b'chori Yisrael, my firstborn child is Israel. I'm saying to you, let my child go, that he may serve me. And if you dare keep my child hostage, vatma'en l'shalcho, if you dare to withhold him, hine anochi horeges bincha b'chorecha, I'll kill all your firstborn children. Millions of firstborn children will die because you are keeping my child hostage. Who's saying that? God the king or God the father? The father. Only the father talks like that. I don't know if you guys see movies around here, but if you, right? This is Mel Gibson and Ransom, right? You know what I mean? It's like, you got my kid. I'm coming after you. I don't care what the rules are. There aren't any rules anymore. A king worries about rules. The rules of Teva. There are no rules of Teva anymore. There's miracles. I don't care about the rules of the world. I'm coming out. And what? It's like the rules of justice between nations. Yeah, there's heavenly rules of justice, right? Nations only going to be so bad before God the king puts up with it. But we're not waiting for those wheels of justice to turn. Do you think it's just that Paro is going to hold on to my Bechorah. Now millions of Bechoros are going to kill. God's going to kill him. That's just? That's not just. That's a father coming after his kid. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I don't care if I have to kill millions of your firstborn. I'm coming, you're oppressing my kid. I'm coming after my kid. It's God the Father. Here's the issue. We say Avinu Malkeinu so many times. We said it this morning 20, 30 times, that the words just roll off our lips. And we don't realize how complicated those words are. What a crazy thing we're saying about God, that he's both king and father. Because a king and a father are two very different roles. And what if those two roles would ever come into conflict with each other? Then what? What would it look like for there to be a conflict between God the Father and God the King? What would that even look like? It turns out that by way of mashal, there's actually one case in the Torah that gives you an insight into what would happen. There's actually a law in the Torah where there's a conflict between family member and king. And the conflict occurs in the law of the Goel Adam. You know the law of the Goel Adam? The law of the Goel Adam goes like this. It's an inadvertent murder. Joe goes into the forest one day and he's not careful with his axe. He's just not careful. He doesn't look at who's around. And he's chopping a tree and the axe slips out of his hand and it flies in the air and it hits Bob and it kills Bob on the spot. Now, Joe didn't intend to do this. This was not first-degree murder with malice aforethought. But Joe was negligent as all heck. Joe just was not even looking who was around. Joe was like he was eating potato chips. He had grease on his hands. The thing just slipped out. It's like he couldn't care less. There's a word for this. With negligent manslaughter with
reckless homicide.
Reckless homicide. It's really bad, right? It's bad. Okay, so now if you're the court, are you going to subject Joe for capital punishment for this crime? Will he hang for this crime? No, he will not. Because it's not first-degree murder. There is capital punishment for first-degree murder, but this isn't it. That's your perspective as king, as judge. But what if you're Bob's brother? What if you watched this happen and you were Bob's brother? How do you look at this? Do you think Joe should just get off? Right? No, you're coming after Joe. You are what the Torah calls the Goel Hadam. Now what's fascinating is that the Torah actually validates both sides of this equation. The Torah on the one hand says the court has no right to impose capital punishment upon Joe. He just can't. On the other hand, the Torah says to Joe's brother, you do have the right to actually come after Joe. Because you only see this differently. In your eyes, this is as bad as malice aforethought. And if you can kill Joe, you actually have the right to kill Joe. And if you do it, we will not punish you. We're not going to condone it, but we won't punish you for killing Joe. We will understand that. However, there's a problem, because if the Torah allows you, Joe, the brother, to do that, that's fine for the Torah to have sympathy for that brother perspective, but what about the king's perspective? The king says, no, I'm sorry, you're not supposed to get killed. So what does the king have to do? The king, in turn, has to protect Joe from the brother, which is what we do in an institution called Arei Miklat. That's what Arei Miklat are for, cities of refuge. So the state is required to set up cities of refuge to which inadvertent murderers can run to escape Bob's brother coming after them. Even though the Torah allows Bob's brother to come after them, the Torah also, as the institution of laws, as representation of the king, has to set up these cities of refuge. Do you get the tension here between brother on the one hand and king on the other? The tension gets even greater. Right? If I have a volunteer, can I get a volunteer? One last volunteer. What's your name? You're not a volunteer. You're telling me I have to... Jesse, you're telling me I'm done. I'm out of time.
Only because there's a huge contingency coming in here for the next class.
Oh, fine. Okay, fine. I'm done. No volunteers. All right. Jesse would have been a volunteer, but he's not. Just about done. But basically, I'm just 2 seconds. I know. Just bring him in here. I'm just about done. Just about done. Okay. So here's what happens, right? Jesse's eating lunch on the porch right over here. Along comes Bob's brother, right? Along comes Joe. Joe is running away like mad, and Jesse just happens to see Bob's brother coming after him 15 seconds behind him. But Jesse says, Bob's brother, he's never going to make it in time. He's going to make it to the city of refuge, Joe. So Jesse, who feels bad for Bob's brother, pulls out his AK-47 rifle that he's licensed to carry and shoots Joe. Right before Joe makes it to the Ari Miklat, before Bob's brother catches up with him. How would the court view that act by Jesse? Murder. If Jesse were to do that, Jesse, I do not advise it, the court would say that you are liable to capital punishment. Why? Bob's brother could do it. How come Bob's brother could do it and not Jesse? What's the answer? Jesse isn't Bob's brother. Mi samcha leish sar v'shofet aleinu. You don't have standing. Who made you the sheriff around here? If you were the brother, I understand. That's exactly at the top of the chiasm, the argument of the aggressor Ivri. I get why you killed the Jew, why you killed him when the Egyptian was harassing the Jew. You were a brother. But now, who are you? There's a judge and a jury around here. You have no standing. If you do that, you are liable for death. That was the reason why Paro wanted to kill Moshe. Because Paro heard that thing. Because Paro is king. Well, Paro is an earthly king. But there's a heavenly king too. And his name is God. And here is the climax. In 30 seconds, I'm done. Right? The bottom line is that the reason why God needed Moshe to connect to Aaron, to understand that he's part of the family, is so that he could be Bob's brother. Moshe has to be Bob's brother. He's got to be part of the family. If he's prevaricating, if he doesn't know who he is, if he's not part of the family, if he's just a humanitarian doing good deeds, he doesn't have standing to do what needs to be done to save the Jewish people. God only has the standing because he's saying, I don't care about king anymore, I'm father. So I'm acting as part of the family. Are you part of the family? What did Moshe and Tsiporah not get around to doing? Mila. What was that about? Right? Are you part of this or not? It was like, I'm still not sure. Who am I? Egyptian or Jew? Who am I? And then Tsiporah, the woman who once identified him as an Ish Mitzri, takes matters into her own hands. She performs circumcisions on the spot and says, this is a Jewish family. I take this question out of your hands. And from then on, there is never an identity conflict. And at that point, Moshe survives. Were it not for that, Moshe dies because he's usurping God the King in the heavens by saying the death threat of God the Father, right? The conflict between God the King and God the Father. Why, after all, does God need Moshe? Why Moshe? Just move away from Moshe. It's because of the conflict. The answer is, God is coming. Remember that medrash, the medrash about when after the sea, right? So everyone wants to say Shira, and the Malachei Hasharet say, let's say Shira, and God said, you can't say Shira. My creatures are drowning in the ocean. Look at the conflict God has. I have a child, Israel, but I have other children in the world too. I have to act because this one child is being threatened. You think I like killing Egyptians? I don't like killing Egyptians. I have a conflict. There's a conflict in my loyalties. Who do I need to be my man on earth? Who am I going to get? Some Egyptian who doesn't understand the conflict and a renegade Egyptian? Some Jew who just says, yeah, go, give it to them? Who are you going to get? But someone who themselves is conflicted, who has to struggle, who feels an identity with the Egyptians, even as he struggles and says, no, my main identity lies with the Jews. It's only he who can represent God with real authority and say, I get what's going on here. I understand what's going on here. This is what has to be done. We're part of the family, but it's painful. And that's God, and that's Moshe. Thank you very much.